everyone, it's Jean from Inky Owl Studio. So glad that you could stop by and share some of your time. I so appreciate it. We are working on part 6 of putting together this little cloth folio. And today we're going to be concentrating on the flap that comes over the top and keeps the journal closed. Before I get started though, I did want to point out a couple of things. I got some questions on where to find the community page. And the community page is where I am posting pictures that people have sent me of their projects. And by the way, if you are doing this project or any project that you've done from my tutorials, I would just absolutely love to see those. If you could email them to inkyowlstudio@gmail.com, and the email's down in the description box. I would love to see those and post those for others to see. But the community page you can find by clicking on my icon, which should be down here below the video, and my picture and the little circle over there. Just click on that, brings you to my home page. If you look just below the heading and above all the listings of videos, you will see 6 tabs. I believe it's 6 tabs across there. And the 4th one over is called the community page, or just community. And click on that and you will see, scroll down and you will see different videos that people have, that I have posted from their projects. So yes, please send me pictures of anything you've done with my tutorials, and I would just love to put those up there. So let's get started with today's project. So now we're going to be making the layers, and the way I determined the size and everything that I want is I took a piece of paper and I cut it, and this is an 8.5 by 11, cut the long way, hot dog way, and I determined, you know, how much of the cover do I want to have showing. So, you know, I want, you know, something like this, because I do want some of that to come out. And so for me, that was like 4 inches wide. And then I want it to be able to take up, you know, the thickness of my journal. And so I put everything inside, and I put in the journal, and I put in the flap tag and everything. So everything's inside. So the folio is going to probably be, it will grow, but it'll probably be at least this much, right? And then, you know, I didn't want to squeeze it. I kind of wanted to let it kind of gently lay over that area. And then I'm going to want to come down about an inch, maybe 1.25 inches from the top, because that's where I'm going to be sewing it onto the journal. So that sort of determined the length of it. Now it's probably going to vary a little bit, but at least I've got a general idea from here where I want those fabrics, how I want those fabrics to be cut. And so I cut them out, and as you can see, if I lay this over like that and let it gently come down, there's a good inch here for me to attach it to the back. And then we'll be attaching a ribbon here, and then this ribbon will be going around a button at the bottom. Now, as far as the layers themselves, this is the way I built up the layers. I am putting in the middle this heavy twill, the same one that I used for the inside here. You know, it's stiff and it's heavy. That's going to be the inside of the sandwich. And then for the outside, I want this fabric to show. But when I put this over it, I can kind of see the lines of the ticking underneath it. I didn't really care for that. So I'm putting in a piece of muslin as a lining, just like so. And I like that much better. And then for, of course, this will be the front. Of course, when you flip it over, you're going to see this. And so I got 2 pieces of decorative fabric, and I think I'm going to make this for the inside, so I'm going to lay this down and I'm going to lay this over it. So I've got 2 layers here of decorative fabric, because here I'm going to be making a pocket much like these pockets over here that we made on the flip over tag. So it's going to be this type of pocket in the back that can be filled, only it's going to be filled from this way rather than this way. So I need these 2 layers of decorative fabric. And then for the front, I'm going to be putting this image here on the front in the same method that I put in this image. Okay. So basically, we'll take these 2 layers here, turn it over, take our piece of ephemera, put it face down because we want it to show this way, and determine where we want that to be. And then we're going to sew just on the inside of that ephemera, just a little bit on the inside all the way around. But before we do that, we are going to cut a little hole on the other side. So I'm marking it with a pin, the hole's like in the middle of this piece of ephemera. We're going to cut a snip, just a little hole in there, because this way, whoops, well, there we go, because this way we have a place to start cutting out and cutting away the excess there. So I've completed the sewing all the way around, and because I cut that hole in there ahead of time, and now I got to find that hole, it is here. I know it's here because I put it in here. There it is. I guess it wasn't that big of a hole. Okay, I have 2 layers here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut away only the 1 layer. And I'm going to see if I can't maximize that double layer effect somehow. So let me just try to get to the 1 layer. Set the 1 layer. Yep. And this layer, I'll go ahead and cut it a little bit from the stitching. You know, a little under a 1/4 of an inch. I'll just do it all the way around, much like we did the other one. Not being real careful, just getting in that general area. Let's do that. Okay, and let's cut the 2nd layer, just kind of let it peek down just a little bit. Now I don't know, possibly this will interfere with my image too much, I'm not sure. But if you can kind of see what I'm trying to come up with here is sort of a layer, a double layer effect. To that. All right. Just start pulling threads all over here. I probably should have allowed more room around my photo than I did. But I think it's still going to work fine. So that's my thought. And it would have been even more fun had that been semi-contrasting, or maybe instead of using a plain muslin, I used another decorative piece of fabric. And quite frankly, this double layer thing didn't occur to me until I was sewing it up. But it's something to experiment with anyhow. You may find it kind of fun to experiment with that a little bit. And just work at that. So preliminarily, that's how I've got that looking. I might do more shredding or fraying later on. But anyway, so that's kind of neat. Kind of a neat effect, something different. I might have to cut this decorative layer back just a little bit more. I'll probably experiment with that, but you kind of get the idea of having those two pieces of cloth, how you can make it even more interesting here, this tearaway. So now we're going to be working on the inside of this flip over, and it'll be attached in such a way that it's going to flip over this like that. And I'm going to be putting a pocket to put ephemera in here. I'm going to be doing it like I said, the same way that I did, oops, the pocket on the flip over. But the difference is I don't want the pocket to be down here. I want it to be here. I want the ephemera to go in and out of the pocket here along the side, because I felt that that was the best way to keep it from spilling out every time you open up the flap. All right, I might end up being wrong about that, but I think that would be the best way to do that. Okay. And here are the layers for the back side. And now I had forgotten before, I'm going to need a third layer back here of a lightweight fabric, because when I make that window, I don't want it to be stretching out really bad because you're putting things in and out all the time. So doubling that up, this lightweight cotton, doubling it up will help with that. If you have a heavy fabric, it probably wouldn't matter, but I think most cottons would do well to have a little bit of a muslin lining or some kind of another cotton lining to shore it up a little bit. So we're going to be taking these layers here, and I want this layer to show inside the window. I want the polka dot layer to show. So I'm putting that to the side, and I'm taking these two layers we'll actually be sewing on. All right, so I want my window to it's going to be long and skinny because the pocket's going to be here on this side. So I ended up with a piece that was 1.5 by 2.5 inches. I think it's large enough to allow ephemera to go in and out and to give me a pocket. And I don't want it to be, let's see, let me orientate myself here. So it's going to fit on like this, so that when we open it up, it's going to be over here. So we're going to want the pocket to be here on this end. We don't want to get close to this end because this is what's going to be sewn onto our cover, and it's going to work this way. We don't want the pocket to be up here to interfere with that. We want it to be further down here, just on the back side of where this particular window is at. All right. So this is where we're going to put it. Now I'm going to take my template, and the pocket can be on this side or this side. It doesn't matter which way you want to pull things in and out. Maybe it would be better to pull it from the right. I don't know. I don't really know. Probably doesn't matter. But you'll want to visualize this being the pocket and then this being the window where things go in and out. You'll want to allow a good 3/4 of an inch from the edges, from this edge and this edge. I'm just going to sew right along those lines that you just drew. Okay, so let me go do that. All right, I sewed and I also trimmed, and I trimmed it pretty close to the stitching, a little bit closer than I did for the window. And now I'm going to be putting this onto the fern layer, or if you're using batting, it would be the batting. I'm setting aside this here. I'm not using this right now, so I'm not sewing on this. I'm just sewing on the middle part of it, the the lining or the decorative part that I want to peek through the window. I'm putting that one down, and then I'm putting down these two layers I've sewn together for that opening for the pocket. And now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sewing down here over that stitching. Then for this area, I'm sewing all the way over. You know, I'm sewing a line. Let me put this ribbon. I'm sewing a line that's, well, really, you can just go ahead and start from this end. Might as well just start from this end and sew all the way to that end. And this is to prevent ephemera from slipping down inside, because as you have your flap on, okay, like so, and when you open it up, you really don't want your ephemera to start slipping down in this area, because it's going to get bent and crumpled with the bend in your flap. So you kind of want to keep it steady and stable in one area. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to sew down here and sew across here. Alrighty, I have sewn this on to there, and so I stitched it here and across there. All right, and I also, one tip I do want to say, that if you iron your piece, if your piece is between your stitching, it will make it much easier for you. So after I got done stitching around this window, I ironed it and then placed it onto the other layers and stitched it again. It just makes it easier. It lays flat, and so yeah, ironing in between your stitching is really, it's a good idea, but I realize that you know, that's sometimes a pain to do too. So that's where we are so far. So the thought is, now we're going to be sewing this, nope, we're going to be sewing this on here, because we want our windows to match. We want our window here to be behind the window here. That's how we want it, just like that, so that when we put it onto our cover, our window is up here, and then this window, of course, is there. So now we will stitch all the way around the perimeter. All right, I've sewn around the perimeter of this, and one thing that kind of came to my mind and I forgot to mention, and it's because I sew a lot that I kind of know how to work it out myself, but if we're dealing with so many layers here, there's going to be quite a bit of creeping, and to make it easier, if you're not a sewer and you don't do a lot of it, to make it easier for you, I feel it would be a good idea to attach the first two layers, the ones that we made this window with, and then I would sew these three together. The two fabrics here and that lining fabric, these three, I would sew them separately and then put them together. And you can either glue them together or sew them together. It might be easier if you glued them together. I'm just thinking putting some fabric tack on the perimeter and putting those two layers together. That might be easier for you to do than try to attempt doing all, see how many layers are there? 6 layers at one time. So that's just a tip you may want to do to make it a little easier. But you know, like I say, you know, so we've got some walking and some rejoin. I'm not worried about any of that. In fact, I like that because it kind of shows the layers that are inside here. So I am not concerned about that, but that just might be less frustrating for you, is to take those layers, break them up and sew them together, and either glue the final pieces together or sew them. So now we're going to be attaching this to the back of the cover here, and we simply, because I want to take everything out, make it as flat as possible here. We're simply going to take the back cover and we're going to lay this down about an inch onto it in the middle, and we're going to then sew a square or a rectangle. We're going to sew here, there, just a long rectangle right onto this cover. Is simply what we're going to do. And again, probably a pin would be helpful. All right. So this one you probably want to get straight as you can, just because, you know, it's going to affect how your flap lays over everything. And oh dear, then here I forgot to tell you to put your ribbon in, because I didn't do it. Oh dear, so before you put all the layers together, so sorry about that, remember to put your ribbon in. So I'm going to have to take my stitching out and poke that ribbon up inside there, but we're going to need to have a ribbon down here. Sorry about that. It's not that big a deal though, but yeah, so before you sandwich all the layers together, make sure you put in your little ribbon. And then we're just going to sew a triangle here. So I'll be right back. All right, the flap has been sewed on, just a little rectangle as you can see around the back. And I put a button in, and that's how it goes. It goes over like that to keep it closed. Here is that pocket, and the ephemera stays in pretty good. Yep. And then just to sew the button on, because I already have my pockets, I had to sew part of the pocket up. So it will make this pocket, you know, like a quarter of an inch less deep than it was. But that's all right. You know, had I known what I was going to do, would have been nice to have sewn that on before the pockets, but it's not a deal breaker. And I went into my special vintage button stash to get that one. I thought that looked really cool. And yeah, so that is how that has gone together. So all I'm going to do now is, you know, decorate up, add more ephemera, decorate it, and you know, that's what you can do at this point. And you can always glue stuff on. You don't have to sew it on if you don't care to. And so the next video will be a flip through and a listing in my Etsy shop. So that will probably be a little while out yet. Probably another week, because I have so many other projects I'm working on right now. So that is essentially the Cloth Folio. How fun was that? I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got some inspiration. Yeah, please subscribe so you can see the final results of this. And we will be talking to you again real soon. Bye.